Introduction. The two categories of airspace are regulatory and non-regulatory. Within these two categories, there are four types: controlled, uncontrolled, special use, and other airspace. The categories and types of airspace are dictated by the complexity or density of aircraft movements, nature of the operations conducted within the airspace, the level of safety required, and national and public interest. Figure 2-1 presents a profile view of the dimensions of various classes of airspace. Controlled airspace. Controlled airspace is a generic term that covers the different classifications of airspace and defined dimensions within which air traffic control service is provided in accordance with the airspace classification. Controlled airspace that is of concern to the remote pilot is Class B, Class D, Class E. Class B airspace. Class B airspace is generally airspace from the surface to 10,000 feet, mean sea level surrounding the nation's busiest airports in terms of airport operations or passenger enplanements. The configuration of each Class B airspace area is individually tailored, consists of a surface area and two or more layers. Some Class B airspace areas resemble upside-down wedding cakes, and is designed to contain all published instrument procedures once an aircraft enters the airspace. A remote pilot must receive authorization from ATC before operating in the Class B airspace. Class C airspace. Class C airspace is generally airspace from the surface to 4,000 feet above the airport elevation, charted in mean sea level, surrounding those airports that have an operational control tower, are serviced by a radar approach control, and have a certain number of instrument flight rules operations or passenger enplanements. Although the configuration of each Class C area is individually tailored, the airspace usually consists of a surface area with a 5 nautical mile radius, an outer circle with a 10 nautical mile radius that extends from 1,200 feet to 4,000 feet above the airport elevation. A remote pilot must receive authorization before operating in Class C airspace. Class D airspace. Class D airspace is generally airspace from the surface to 2,500 feet above the airport elevation, charted in mean sea level, surrounding those airports that have an operational control tower. The configuration of each Class D airspace area is individually tailored, and when instrument procedures are published, the airspace is normally designed to contain the procedures. Arrival extensions for instrument approach procedures may be Class D or Class C airspace. A remote pilot must receive ATC authorization before operating in Class D airspace. Class E airspace. Class E airspace is the controlled airspace not classified as Class A, B, C, or D airspace. A large amount of the airspace over the United States is designated as Class E airspace. This provides sufficient airspace for the safe control and separation of aircraft during IFR operations. Chapter 3 of the Aeronautical Information Manual explains the various types of Class E airspace. Sectional and other charts depict all locations of Class E airspace with bases below 14,500 feet mean sea level. In areas where charts do not depict a Class E base, Class E begins at 14,500 feet mean sea level. In most areas, the Class E airspace base is 1,200 feet above ground level. In many other areas, the Class E airspace base is either the surface or 700 feet above ground level. Some Class E airspace begins at an MSL altitude depicted on the charts instead of an AGL altitude. Class E airspace typically extends up to, but not including, 18,000 feet means sea level, the lower limit of Class A airspace. All airspace above flight level 600 is Class E airspace. Federal airways, which are shown as blue lines on a sectional chart, are usually found within Class E airspace. Federal airways start at 1,200 feet above ground level and go up to, but not including 18,000 feet, means sea level. In most cases, a remote pilot will not need air traffic control authorization to operate in Class E airspace.